This is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Today I have a very special treat for you. One of the questions I get a lot sometimes is, hey John, my pulp's coming out, but it's still wet. There's juice in my pulp. The juicer's defective. I want a new one. Or, whatever happens. But let me first tell you one thing. Unless you buy a $2,500 Norwalk juicer, your pulp will be wet. I guess there is one exception. If you get a Wells Press juicer, they're about $400. You could take your pulp after it comes out of one of these juicers, put it into the Wells Press, and press out the rest of the juice. So if you don't have a Norwalk or a Wells Press, then all the other juicers that I've ever tested, will leave some moisture or some juice left over in the pulp. And how much moisture is left in the pulp depends on a few factors. The juicer or the juicer style. So this is a centrifugal ejection style juicer. This is a single auger, vertical single auger style juicer. And each extraction method works better or worse on certain produce items than others. For example, this type of juicer, the centrifugal ejection juicer, tends to work really well on things like carrots and harder firm vegetables like beets and hard apples, not mushy apples. And over here, the Omega Vert tends to actually do fairly well at juicing some leafy greens, wheatgrass, and fruits, and a variety of things. But that being said, the pulp's still going to be a little bit wet on both these machines. What we're going to do today is we're going to juice 3 organic tomatoes in each one of these machines. Now, I haven't weighed out the tomatoes, so this is not going to be an official juice off, but keep in mind each of these tomatoes are approximately the same size. So first, we're going to juice in the L'Equip 215 XL. That's the big mouth. This has a 3-inch wide feed chute. So literally, I won't have to cut the tomatoes to put them in. We're going to go ahead and turn that on and drop the tomatoes in. As you can see, the juice is coming out and the pulp is getting kicked into the hopper in the back. Really simple and really easy to use, the L'Equip 215 XL. Looks like it's doing a nice job too. All right. So that's how easy it is to juice in the L'Equip 215 XL. It runs at a really fast RPM, like 10,000 RPM, so that's how fast it spins. The faster juicer spins, in general, the higher the oxidation that happens because more oxygen is being flung into the juice, and when the cells that have been ruptured get the oxygen introduced into it, it causes oxidation, which basically lowers the nutrient quality of the juice. So that's why I like a juicer like the juicer over here, the Omega Vert 330 HD. We're going to turn this machine on, and unfortunately we can't fit whole tomatoes into this machine, so we're going to have to cut them up. Not a big deal. We'll just cut them up and drop them into the machine one piece at a time. Now you want to let the Omega Vert juicer work and run, and you don't want to start cramming stuff in there, or you don't want to use the pusher unless something gets stuck in there. This machine definitely needs some time to work, and if you're feeding things in too fast by using the pusher, then you'll have basically problems with the machine backing up. Alright, so that's 2 tomatoes that we've already fed through the machine. Let's go ahead and start working on the last one. As you could hear, this one is a lot more quiet than the L'Equip 215 XL, so that's once again another advantage of this machine, is that it's quiet. So if you have to juice in the morning, you won't wake up your family or your roommates when you're trying to juice. We're going to go ahead and let that run and process that last tomato. While we're going to go ahead and take this machine apart, and we're going to show you all the leftover pulp that didn't get juiced, actually. So we'll take this machine apart. You can see all that leftover pulp in here, and we're going to basically carefully empty this onto our plate here. And I want you to see that this pulp is still definitely wet. And there's also a little bit of pulp that made it into the catch hopper. So there's that. Now let's check out the Omega Vert. So it looks like it's almost done juicing, but you want to give the Omega Vert some time to get a complete juice. How you know it's done is when pulp stops moving out of the ejection port. If pulp is still moving, that means the juicer is still working. Alright, so finally I think the juicer has stopped ejecting the pulp. Let's take the machine apart and see what we've got. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off first. And now we could dump the pulp out of this thing. See, we got a nice small blob there. Take the top off and let's see what we got inside this housing. Actually, there's not a whole lot of pulp left over in there. Let's go ahead and scrape the screen a little bit. Not much in there. And there's a little bit that I won't be able to get out of this ejection port here. Alright, looks like we got a bunch of it out of there. So that's the pulp out of both machines. Next, let's go ahead and take a look at the pulp. Here's the pulp out of the Equip 215 XL. And you can see here, there's big pieces of the tomato skin that did not get juice. So when the cell walls did not get ruptured on this tomato skin, you're not getting as much nutrition out of the juice. Next, let's go ahead and pick up this whole pulp mass, get it in my hand, and there it is. We can see if we could squeeze out the juice, and it's basically just squeezing out tomato mush. So, you know, it was fairly effective getting the juice out of there. Now, if you did want to get more juice out, you could actually put this into like a cheesecloth bag or a nut milk bag or a nylon paint straining bag, put it in there, and then squeeze it, and you may squeeze out some more juice. Let's check out the pulp from the Omega Vert. A lot more contained. Once again, we could put that in the hand there, and you know, if we look through this, it's just basically all pieces. I don't see any large pieces of skin. Pretty much got it pretty good. Once again, if I squeeze this out, this is the reason why juicers have a problem with fruits, is because it's not like fiber and juice like on a carrot. You'll knowingly get the fiber and juice come out, but with this, it's mostly just all like soft pulp, and this is where juicers have a big problem with juicing the fruits. So in that case, I recommend actually eating your fruits whole or blending them. And yes, tomatoes are actually a fruit, but because botanically they contain seeds. They're not actually a vegetable. So next, let's go ahead and take a look at the juice that each one of these produced. This one produced a little bit under 1 1/4 cups of juice. And over here, this one produced approximately a little bit over 1 1/4 cups of juice. So the Equip 215 XL actually produced more juice than the Omega Vert. But what I want you guys to notice, and I'll try to hold this up close to the camera there, can you see this juice here? It contains juice separation, and so the juicer separation, what that does is actually, because there's more oxygen into the juice, it's like pumping up your juice full of some air in small air bubbles. So that may actually cause it to have some more yield. On the Omega Vert juicer, juice, you know, it's nice and solid, and there's not a lot of air bubbles in it, it's more solid. So let's do a flavor test. So that tastes kind of like a pudding. It's not really a juice because, once again, tomatoes are one of those things that's harder to juice. Wow. I could really taste the air with the juice made on the Equip 215 XL. Is that good or bad? Well, it depends on your preference. You know, if you want a more full-body juice, go with the Omega Vert. If you want a juice with more air, then you could go with the Equip 215 XL. Of course, you saw we could just dump the tomatoes in the 215 XL, and on the Omega Vert, we definitely had to cut them up. So, once again, each juicer has their pros and their cons, and we're not going over that in this video. I have many other videos that explain that, and one of the videos I'd recommend that you'd watch if you haven't already is choosing the best juicer, and another video is what is your juicing style? Because based on what you want to juice, we could recommend a machine that's going to juice those items the best. So hopefully you've enjoyed this episode learning about how tomatoes are juiced in the Omega Vert 330 HD and the Equip 215 XL. And remember, you know, with most all juicers, there always will be some juice left in the pulp. Once again, this is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for our YouTube visitors.